Every single guitarist alive claims if a tremolo isn't made of hardened steel, it's absolute garbage. Is that true? Does it actually matter what material your trem is made of? So in this episode, we're going to give you the truth about tremolo materials and show you it ain't that important. All right, this is the Axe Guitar Show. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the Axe Guitar Show, your one-stop shop for tremolo tips and tricks. I hope you all have been well. Starting the holiday season, here we are. I hope Halloween went well for y'all. Did anybody have any guitar-related costumes? Any, band-related costumes? I always want to get my family to do, dress up as Kiss because there's 4 of us. But it never seems to come to fruition. Poor planning on my part. But anyways, I'm so glad y'all are back because today we're going to talk about something that, is littered through guitar forums, Reddit threads, things like that. It's like, oh, if a trem isn't made of a certain metal or doesn't have this certain component, it's not that good. Is that true? Nobody really knows. It's really something that a lot of vibrato, tremolo, floating bridge connoisseurs are neurotically concerned about. I mean, it's something that rocks them to their core. And if you didn't know, tremolos come in a wide variety of different metals and materials to include titanium, which is extremely expensive and heavy, but also probably the strongest. Hardened steel, which is a crowd favorite. That's kind of what the original Floyd Rose is made of, mostly the base plate, the saddles, all the important components, really. And then, there's also zinc alloy, which are the Zamic alloys, and we'll get into that a little later. There's pot metal, and there's even components on tremolos that are made of brass. So there's really a full spectrum of metals that they use for tremolos, and that kind of does dictate sometimes the quality of the trem, and so we'll get into that. Many pundits surrounding floating tremolos and like Floyd Rose will tell you that if your floating trem isn't completely made of hardened steel, that it's complete trash, which I'm going to show you it's not that simple. And why would you go out and buy an Ibanez Edge if it doesn't have hardened steel base plate? I've been told that before. Why would you get a Ibanez Edge trem if it doesn't have a hardened steel base plate? Well, I'll tell you why. So we're basically here to set the record straight and to kind of tell you that this topic is more complicated and nuanced than it appears to be, which is a good thing for you because once you understand the key point of this entire show, you'll realize that a trem made entirely of one material isn't necessarily the best or the worst. But real quick, before we get into the juicy details, I just want to ask y'all to subscribe below so you don't miss out on all of the free tremolo info this show has to offer. So, all right, the huge point that I know is going to draw a lot of heat from all the tremolo gurus out there is this. It doesn't necessarily matter what your entire trem is made out of. What matters is that your trem has quality materials where they need to be. Yes, you heard me right, and I'm going to die on this hill. What's important is quality strong materials such as hardened steel and titanium where they need to be, and these locations are the contact point of the knife edge and the stud and the saddles. Those are the two. You might be saying to yourself, there's no way that just those 2 points are what's important and need quality materials in a trem. I'm going to show you that that is pretty much the case. And then, I would even say that the tremolo block isn't as important as those pieces because, trems operate pretty damn well with a zinc oxide tremolo block. Are they better with a fat brass or a stainless steel or a titanium tremolo block? Sure, of course. But the thing is, that's talking about sustain. You don't necessarily need those tremolo blocks for a tremolo to operate proficiently. And so realizing that you need quality materials and strong metals at the knife edges and the studs and the saddles really makes it crystal clear why millions of people say they love the Ibanez Edge trem or they love the Schaller trem, even though they have cheaper, lower quality material components on other parts of the trem. So let's get into the why that's the case. Yes, hardened steel and titanium are phenomenal performing metals that are strong and work very well for double locking tremolos and the tensile strength that the tremolo requires and the abuse that people put on tremolos. Those metals are great for these types of machines. Let's take the original Floyd Rose, right? This is the Mac Daddy of tremolos, or at least some people think so. I mean, arguably, it is the best tremolo out there, and that's because years long of history, its origin, and it's been used and proven over the years. The design has changed, which some could argue compromises quality. I spoke with the president of AP International, who owns Floyd Rose, and there's good things on the horizon in terms of quality, but that's a whole nother video and we can talk about it later. But this thing is made almost completely of hardened steel, the Floyd Rose original tremolo, and has great longevity and functionality. But let's steer your attention over to a tremolo that is beloved by many guitarists, and I would argue is just as good or better than the original Floyd Rose. Let's take a look at the Schaller tremolo, and this isn't the Lockmeister, this is the Schaller tremolo. And this was originally a licensed trem, as it used the original fulcrum design of the Floyd Rose, so it had to get a license. And but you'd also be correct in saying that throughout the years, Schaller has produced and manufactured all of Floyd Rose's trems that are coming out of Germany. It still makes their trems for the most part. More to come on this. Wink, wink, wink. Stomp your feet. Be prepared for some probably groundbreaking news in the next couple months. Now, I'm not kidding you when I say people love this Schaller trem. It's almost like a cult following. I've met several guitarists, and you can find tons online, that you put a Schaller trem in almost all of their guitars. They'll take whatever tremolo they have. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be original Floyd Rose, and they'll replace it with a Schaller trem just because they're that dedicated to it. And this is what's important about it. The Schaller trem has hardened steel knife edges, hardened steel saddles, but a cast zinc base plate. Yeah, you heard me right. A cast zinc base plate. And you might be thinking, Nick, if it doesn't have a hardened steel base plate, then it's absolute garbage. This is a trash tremolo. And I would say no, and here's why. For starters, with the Schaller trem, like we said before, they have hardened steel knife edges. And here's the catch. They're replaceable. Yeah, you can actually replace the knife edges in the Schaller trem. So take a look at this graphic. You can see these black knife edges here, right? They look distinct and different from the base plate. They're replaceable, which essentially means that, like, barring any saddle difficulty, any catastrophic damage to your trem, a manufacturer defect, or like stripping of the screws or something, this trem will essentially last forever because, knife edge difficulties are usually something that happens with trems down the line. And if that happens to this one, swap them out, right? And being that a set of these replaceable knife edges run about 13 American dollars, I think it's about the same in euros, give or take a few, that value speaks for itself. Because if you have a knife edge issue on any of these other hardened steel tremolos, like an original Floyd Rose or a Goto, I'm sorry, but you have to whole new $200, $300 plus trem. Of course you can find a hardened steel base plate that you can put in here and attach all the components separately. But either way, that's going to be more expensive than a $13 pair of replaceable hardened steel knife edges. Am I right? Now, secondly, the Schaller tremolo comes with hardened steel saddles, which, like we said above, is one of the other locations on a tremolo that you need good quality materials. This is because there's a lot going on in the saddles. You have the movement of the saddle screw within the block itself, then the subsequent tightening and clamping of the string in that saddle, right? And this is the exact reason why zinc alloy saddles found on cheaper tremolos are so bad. And I know some of you have experienced this and dealt with the mental frustration of zinc alloy saddles, and there's a support group for that. I'll put the link in the description. I'm kidding. But the reason those zinc alloy saddles are so bad is the saddle screws really strip the blocks very frequently. And then the strings groove in the saddle, causing string breakage. That's like one of the most common things. And then trust me when I say this, you almost absolutely need hardened steel or even titanium saddles if you can afford them. It's one of the most crucial pieces aside from the knife edges. So considering the Schaller tremolo, this is a fine example that tremolo material really only matters on the locations that you need it most. And I know many of you viewing this will agree with me when I say the Schaller trem is a fantastic trem. It's been around for a long time and it's lasted the test of time. And, sometimes you can get it at a better rate than an original Floyd Rose online. And this thing also comes with replaceable knife edges like we talked about before. So this whole entire package really points to the value of having good materials where you need it. And then, because the edges are replaceable, it's likely to last longer than an original Floyd Rose or something of that, caliber. Hey guys, just a quick break to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Humanoid Effects guitar pedals. Guys, I love these handmade pedals made right here in North Carolina, and I love them because Humanoid really pours their blood, sweat, and tears into their products, meaning you get unique guitar tone every time. And I want to give you exclusive discounts, so listen up. I use the Humanoid Apparition, which is a high-gain turbo distortion that, I'm serious when I tell you this, gives me the best thrash and searing lead tones that I need in my playing. Now, you can save 25%. Yeah, you heard me right. 25% on all Humanoid pedals by using the link in the description and show notes, or use the code THEAXE at checkout. You won't find another deal like this on handcrafted, custom-made pedals, so go check out humanoidfx.com today. But if that example wasn't enough for you, let's prove my point one more time with another crowd favorite tremolo that many metal players out there argue is the best floating trem ever created because due to its weight, fluidity, and overall performance. Can you guess which one we're talking about? I'll give you some time. Let me give you a hint, actually. Japanese made by Goto for a certain guitar brand, used by some of the greatest guitarists in the world for decades. Any guesses? Still nothing? Come on, people. We're talking about the Ibanez Edge Tremolo. So looking at this trem, I'd argue that this is one of Ibanez's flagship trems, and it's going to surprise you what it's made out of. So stick around for this. Taking a look at the knife edges, which are one of our hot spots for where you need good sound quality materials on a tremolo, these are made of hardened steel, and they were originally designed to be replaceable. Yeah, did you know that? If you take the trem off of the guitar, if you take the Ibanez Edge off the guitar, you can see little slots where the knife edges are supposed to come out, or at least where they were installed. You can scour the internet looking for replaceable knife edges for the Ibanez Edge. First of all, you won't find any. And then there's kind of conflicting advice or conflicting knowledge as to if these were actually designed to be replaceable. They were. It just, Ibanez and Goto never really followed up with the replaceable design because there's slots to put them in. You can take them out, but you really can't replace them. If you know more about this setup, the design, the history, please let us know in the comments. I'm not all-knowing. You guys are like literally a brain trust. Now, similar to the Schaller trim, the Ibanez Edge has steel saddles and are, in my opinion, some of the best saddles on the market just because of the way they're cut and the way they look. You can see in this graphic these kind of beveled edges, which really adds to the ergonomic design of this trim, which makes it comfortable. The fine tuners are kind of oriented towards the back and face a little bit of a different way than like an original Floyd Rose. And I mean, it's definitely an improvement over the original Floyd design. Now, what is the base plate made of on the Ibanez Edge Tremolo, right? Is it titanium? Is it hardened steel? It has to be a steel alloy, right? I mean, Steve Vai and Joe Satriani wouldn't be using these trems for decades if they weren't made with something of quality, yeah? Nope, it's made of pot metal. Yeah, pot metal. Yep, the same metal that they use for cheap metal toys like the Hot Wheels you had growing up, Hot Wheel cars, other cheap casted products. Basically a hodgepodge of low melting point metals congealed together in a lost wax casting process to produce a base plate in which they attach the components to that matter for the components that matter for performance, the knife edges and the saddles. Many guitarists believe that the design of the Ibanez Edge actually plays to its advantage as it's a little lighter and allow the components to attach in a better way. And then to layer on top of this personal experience out of my original Floyd Rose, my Floyd Rose 1000 series, my Wilkinson trem, all of my other trem models, my go-to is the Ibanez Edge based off, the smoothness, the ease of use, the changing the strings, the sound. When you use the whammy bar, it's just completely fluid. It has a push-in whammy bar. And because it has the really quality components where I need it most, it's lasted forever without any issues. So guys, I think this proves the point that you don't need a trem completely made out of hardened steel or like titanium, because some of the best trems on the market aren't made that way. So in some, I feel it's sage advice to always look for a trem with quality steel knife edges and saddles, and you can't do any wrong. And you probably save some money that way. All right, guys, that's the end of the show. I really enjoyed spending my time with you. I hope you did as well. Go ahead and subscribe below so you don't miss any episodes like this. If you're listening on audio, go ahead and rate, review, comment, things like that. You can get all of this stuff on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Be well and catch you in the next episode.